Hi, my name is Catherine Justice, and I'm a yoga therapist and an integrative physical therapist to lead you through a guided practice of yoga for chronic pain. So we're going to have a little quick chat at the start about what chronic pain is and why we experience it and how yoga can help. And then we're going to get onto our mats or in a chair if you're more comfortable. The whole sequence can be done seated in a chair. And we're going to explore how these different ideas apply to us and our bodies. So, chronic pain, not fun, right? No, it's not fun. So it's pain that lasts at least 3 to 6 months. That pain may be associated with an injury or some sort of recognizable musculoskeletal reason. It could be due to a chronic illness or a chronic condition. There's lots of reasons behind it, which makes it, there's no cookie cutter yoga program that's good for every person because the mechanism behind their pain can be very different from one person to another. And even if the mechanism is the same, the experience of pain is incredibly complex. It's incredibly personal, and it has to do with a whole host of domains of our bodies and our lives. So it is physical, but there is a mental component to pain. There is an emotional component. There's a social component, environmental, spiritual. There's a whole, pain affects everything. But if that's the bad news, if the bad news is that pain affects everything, then the good news is that everything affects pain. So even though pain can have such a sweeping effect on our lives, if we look at interventions that can influence us kind of on that physical level, on the mental, on the emotional, on the environmental, the social, all of that, if we can find things that influence those different domains, we can influence that pain and how we experience it in our bodies. So chronic pain is very common, unfortunately. In 2016, there was a survey done that found that about 20% of Americans experienced some form of chronic pain, with 8% of those being what they called high impact pain, meaning pain that had a really high impact on their lives. And it's one of the leading causes of disability globally. So you're not alone if you are experiencing this. So let's take a moment now to think about the science of pain, about why we experience it. So acute pain or pain that happens in the moment is generally, like the example is that people often go is touching a hot stove. So we touch a hot stove and our body immediately has a reflex that says pull away, stiffen, and that reflex happens in our spine. It's not even reaching our higher level of thinking when it's that really severe acute pain. If, however, the pain comes and it's less of that hot stove reaction, our body will still have a little bit of that pulling away, stiffening response, which we're going to explore that more in our yoga practice if that's happening to you. But the body experiences the pain as a sensation. It doesn't know it's pain yet. It just knows it's sensation. And as that sensation reaches the different parts of our brain, and particularly our frontal cortex, so our sort of highest level of conscious thinking brain, as soon as it reaches that higher level, our brain interprets the sensation. And it interprets it, if you're experiencing pain, it interprets it as pain, which often is referred to as suffering. So pain and suffering are two different things. Pain would be the sensation we feel, and suffering is how our brain interprets it. And I'm sure everyone has had the experience where because a injury happened at a stressful time, the pain was amplified, because that's what stress does. Stress generally amplifies our pain. So if we're in that fight, flight, freeze response, some form of that stress response, our pain is going to be greater. But if we are in a relaxed and a kind of more joyful frame of mind, our body can tolerate a lot more pain, or we suffer less from that sensation, from the pain sensation. So right there, pain is very subjective and it's very personal. So no one can tell you that you shouldn't be feeling the pain that you're feeling because you are feeling it. They are not feeling it. It is subjective and it's about you. It's not about them. But sometimes with chronic pain, the trigger or the mechanism that originally caused the pain, maybe that's healed, maybe that's gone away, or maybe it's reached a state of where it shouldn't, in theory, be causing you a lot of suffering, but yet you still are suffering. And why that happens, again, it's very complex, it's very personal, so there's no one size fits all answer to it, but oftentimes the body gets trapped in this stress response associated with the pain, and it literally hardwires that pain response into our bodies and into our body-mind connection. And oftentimes, along with chronic pain comes this autonomic nervous system dysregulation. And what that is a breakdown of our normal fight, flight, freeze response and our normal relaxation response, that those systems are now not helping us and not serving us the way that we would functionally like them to. So our body is generally, again, this is broad brushstrokes, but generally in too much of that fight, flight, freeze response, which is amplifying our pain, and we're not getting enough of that relaxation response to help to calm the pain signal down. So, along with that autonomic dysregulation often comes this pain and inactivity cycle. So what I mean by that is, if you're in chronic pain, it probably hurts to move your body in some way, shape, or form. And if it hurts to move, you're going to move less. Why wouldn't you? Why do you want to move if it hurts? So as we hurt, we move less, then the body becomes stiffer and it becomes weaker. And then when we try and move, it hurts even more. And so we move less and the body gets stiffer and it gets weaker, and we try and move and we hurt even more and we move less. So it's this vicious cycle. And this is where yoga comes in. So yoga is excellent for chronic pain for multiple reasons. But one of them is because it's an integrative, holistic practice. So it can affect pain on all those different domains. And potentially, it can affect our physical body, it can affect our emotional body, it can affect our mind, the way that we think about pain. It can affect us environmentally and socially, and through all of those domains, yoga has potential to heal. And also, when we engage in the physical postures and the breathing practices of yoga in particular, we are repairing that body-mind connection. So if on some level the body is still pulling away from the pain, still stiffening, still stuck in that fight or flight response, we can use these yoga practices in order to calm the nervous system, to gently start to get the body moving again, maybe build better mobility, maybe build some strength in areas that need more support. And we can really heal the body on those multiple domains. We can start to heal that stress and reactivity cycle that happens with pain, and we can heal that stress and inactivity cycle that comes with pain. And part of the way we do that is in a deep listening and a deep reintegration of the signals that the body is giving our brain. So if we can even let go of the word pain for a while and just think about sensation. So as you're practicing yoga with me today, think about what sensations are you getting from your body. And if those sensations are a feeling of aching, or kind of a broad, kind of deep, kind of stiffness feeling in a large area of the body, or if it's like this sort of generalized, like, kind of feeling, those sensations might not be bad. Those sensations might actually be good, because that is often what the body feels when it is weak and it's getting strong. It's what the body feels when it's stiff and it is getting more mobile. It's what the body feels when it hasn't moved some place of it in a long time and we start to bring movement. It can feel creaky and achy and sore. So all those sensations, those are actually good things. But there are some bad things that we do want to avoid. So the bad sensation would be things like very sharp shooting sensation that starts one place and zings somewhere else. Sensation that's really like you can pinpoint it. You could say, oh, it's right there. Like those kind of specific sensations, those are the ones that we want to respect the body, and we want to say, okay, thank you for telling me that. I am going to adjust so that we don't have to feel that. So really trying to parse out for yourself in these movements what feels like it's in the realm of that good sensation and what feels like it's in the realm of bad, and respecting the answer. So you offer up your yoga practice to your body like a question, and we listen to what our body tells us the answer is to that question. So overall of this, the take-home points are: one, that pain is incredibly complex, and it is incredibly subjective. So don't let anyone tell you that you shouldn't be feeling something that you are feeling, because we don't know everything about why people feel pain. This science is emerging, and it is not all known. Mind-body modalities like yoga are really uniquely positioned to help with chronic pain because they can help on some of those multiple domains. And yoga works from what they call a kind of a bottom-up and a top-down approach. Bottom-up meaning that it's working kind of the physical side of pain through the body, through the musculoskeletal system, getting it moving again. And it's also working top-down because it's helping to calm that fight or flight freeze reaction in the body, helping to reintegrate body and mind. So it's kind of helping from two directions. And also, maybe through this practice you can tap in to a more energetic, more spiritual side of movement that's going to help with pain. Maybe you're going to seek out a yoga community and that social element can help with pain. But either way, we're going to help to calm our nervous system. We're going to help to get our body moving. And you get to be your own teacher and your own healer on this journey, and you get to be in charge. So to get things set up, you can, if you prefer to sit on some support, I highly recommend it. So a bolster, some folded blankets, a couch cushion, and you can do the whole practice sitting in a chair if you want. So feel free to take a moment, set up your space, get some stuff, and then come join me on the yoga mat. So we are going to start on our backs. If you are comfortable getting on the floor, you can also do this beginning practice, this first part. You can do it in a bed if you want to lie in your bed. And you can do it sitting in a chair too. I would say for this first part, just kind of lean back, find a comfortable position in the chair. But I'm going to move my chair aside so that I can have some space to lie on my back. So as you come onto your back, go ahead and keep your legs bent so that your back has some support. You can have your feet kind of hip distance apart, or you can take the feet even wider than hip distance and let your knees drop together. I like this one a lot. I feel like it gives my lower back a lot of spaciousness, a lot of room to relax. But find what works for you. What position of lying on your back or just lying back, sitting back in a chair, what position feels good. Wherever you are, go ahead, close your eyes and take one hand to your heart and one hand to your belly. And from here, with your eyes closed, you're just going to tune into your body sensation. In yoga, we call this pratyahara, or withdrawal of the senses. And just feeling what the breath is doing in your body. And as you feel your body respond to the breath, you can see what it would feel like to allow your breath to slow down. Particularly your exhalations, spending a little more time on the exhale. And this right here, just this slowing down of our breath, the slowing down of our exhalations is an incredibly powerful way of calming the nervous system. Maybe you can start to feel your breath deepen, and by deepen, I mean literally get it deeper in your body so that as you inhale, maybe your belly can rise a little. As you exhale, the belly drops back in. Seeing if you can feel less movement up at the chest, more movement down into the belly, into the lower rib cage. As we practice this slow belly breathing, we're also going to set an intention for ourselves of ahimsa and satya, of nonviolence and truthfulness. So whatever this yoga practice is going to be for our body, we are going to be truthful, meaning we're going to really be honest about what we're feeling. And we're going to approach that truthfulness with a sense of kindness and compassion. With a sense of non-harming to our body. And then from here, gently open your eyes if they're closed. You can bring your arms down at your sides. And if your feet are hip distance apart, see what it would feel like to take them a little wider. And we're going to move through, I call these windshield wipers. You're going to exhale and just let your knees drop to one side, just a comfortable amount. Inhale as they come back up, and then exhale as they go to the other side. So we're just going to find this really slow, gentle rocking motion, exhaling as the knees drop down, inhaling as they come back up. So as you take these windshield wipers, if you're in a chair and you're like, what am I supposed to be doing? You can sit up nice and tall. You can separate your feet just like we have them here on the mat, and you can just do the windshield wipers in a seated position, just letting your knees kind of swish from side to side. Again, comfortable motion, keeping it gentle. And we're going to really enter into that internal sensation. What does it feel like in your body? Can you feel that rotation happening through the hips? And really what it looks like on the outside is inconsequential. It really doesn't matter what this looks like on the outside. It's all about how does it feel in your body. So the knees can move teeny tiny little windshield wipers. They can move great big windshield wipers. We just want it to feel good. Maybe you can feel your back kind of massage across the floor with the movement. Really coordinating the breath and the movement to find this really kind of gentle, slow rocking motion. We're going to keep coming back to movements that coordinate with the breath, that rock like this. This kind of rocking motion is very soothing for our nervous system. And at any point too, if you want to keep going with what we're doing, if it's feeling good, you can keep it going and then just kind of catch up with us later in the practice, wherever you want to jump back in. But for those of us that are ready to move on, you can now bring your feet so they're a little more hip distance apart. And again, if you're in a chair, just bring the feet a little more narrow. And then from here, we're going to take some pelvic tilts or pelvic rocking. So as you exhale, you're going to kind of curl your tailbone under and you'll feel your lower back. Just gently either press into the floor, or if you're in a chair, it's like your lower back just kind of rounds and slumps a little bit. And then as you inhale, rocking the hips forward so that you can feel maybe a gentle arch to the lower back. So moving with the breath, you're going to exhale and rock back. You're going to inhale and rock forward. And this is one where if you suffer from chronic lower back pain, you want to be really mindful of this movement. You want to say, how far do I feel comfortable going? Maybe this movement is teeny tiny for your back, and that's okay. Maybe it's big. That's okay too. You just want to tune in and see where that comfortable motion lives. I want to challenge you too. A lot of times I hear people with chronic pain saying things like, I have a bad back, or I have a bad hip or a bad knee. And your back, your hip, your knee, they are not bad. They are not bad. They are vulnerable and they need support. So this yoga practice is an opportunity to take these vulnerable areas of our body and not tell them that they're bad. We're going to tell them, I'm here to support you. I'm bringing some support. And go ahead and move through one more full round of pelvic tilts. And then from there, go ahead and just gently roll to one side if you're on the mat, or you can just come to sit up tall if you're sitting. And take a moment on your side. And again, you can do this in bed too. But as you're ready, we're going to slowly come on up to hands and knees. Again, if you're in the chair, just come up to a nice upright seated position. And we're going to keep that rocking motion going now through cat and cow. So go ahead and take your fingers nice and wide on the mat, ground through the hand, feel the whole palm of each hand pressing into the floor. And if you're in the chair, it's the same movement as the pelvic tilts. You're just going to now do it with your whole back. It's just going to be bigger. So as we exhale, you're going to curl that tailbone under, round the back, and drop the head. As you inhale, you're going to gently arch through the back. Maybe looking, if you're on the mat, a few inches ahead of your fingertips. Maybe looking just slightly higher than eye level if you're seated. Exhaling to round. So again, be your own teacher and move at your own pace. Your breath is really your biggest teacher for these movements. So follow your breath. Inhale as you gently arch. Exhale as you gently round. Slowing the movement down and making it as big or as small as your body wants. So it doesn't have to be huge, particularly cow pose, the arched one. That one tends to be kind of sensitive for some people. So maybe you don't want to be in your deepest cow. Maybe you just want to go 3/4 of the way there. Maybe just halfway there. Maybe even 1/4 of the way. Whatever your body wants, we're going to give it to it. This is kind of playtime for our body. Going to help it feel good in the practice. So you think let your breath lead, let your body follow. And then as you exhale this next time, you're going to take it back into child's pose. So a traditional child's pose on the mat, you're going to let your knees separate wide. You're going to let your hips sit back. Maybe you want to bring some support under your head. You can fold, kind of stack your fists and let your head rest on your fists or your hands. You can have your arms forward if that feels better, or folded back. And if you're in a chair, I'm going to show this one because it's a little harder to talk through. But if you're in a chair, you're just going to slump forward, let your body round forward, and offer it whatever support it wants. So maybe that's elbows on your thighs, your head resting in your hands. Maybe you can fold and rest your head on your hands here, or maybe you can fold all the way and rest down. But whatever position you're in, you want to feel your breath moving through your back. So as you inhale, the back expands and opens. As you exhale, it softens back in. Using your breath like a massage. And if none of these options feel good to you, another one is to come back onto your back and hug your knees to your chest. So it's the same pose. It's just flipped upside down. Got lower back pain or knee pain, hip pain, sometimes this is a better alternative than the other ones. Slowing the breath down, whatever version of child's pose you're taking. And then from here, if you're in a traditional child's pose, go ahead and reach your hands forward. And then we're going to walk our hands over to the left, just a handprint or two, just a little walk of the hands to the left. And then we're going to gently pull our hips back into the right. As you rest your head down, your head may or may not touch the floor. And if it needs support and it doesn't have it, you can always take that left hand and make a little fist and let your head rest onto your fist. And that can give the neck some support. Or you can just let it hang. But what we really want to feel is breathing and opening in through the right side. And if you're in a chair, you just do that same pose that you were in, leaning forward, but just do a little reach over to one side. And you can even create a little shelf with your opposite hand. Let the hand rest on it as you reach to the side. If you're on your back, you can just stay there, hug your knees, just enjoy being where you're at. And then we'll take the other side. So you can walk your hands over to the right, shift the hips to the left, and now breathe and open into the left rib cage, the left lower back. Let the head hang down. And again, we're going to just feel the breath in the body, slowing things down. So again, if you're in the chair, you can make a little shelf. Lean the body over, breathe into the rib cage. And then bring the hands back to center, let the hips drop back, and breathe into both sides of the ribs. And on an inhale, gently rise back up to hands and knees. And let's do a little bit of work for our core. So in general, the whole world needs more core strength. It will help all of us, but particularly if you've got chronic pain, oftentimes the core, for whatever reason, shuts down. So we need to wake it up to give your body more support. So from hands and knees, again, feel the ground under your hands. Make sure you got that nice kind of full palm sensation in the ground, not just your wrists. And then you're going to slide your right leg back. You got a chair. You might have to scoot it out of the way. So as you slide the right leg back with the toes tucked under, just take a moment here to kind of feel that sense of just gently reaching through that back heel. So we're not pushing into a super deep stretch or anything like that. We're just feeling like we could shine a little flashlight out of our right heel. And that flashlight, that shining, is going to get a little bit brighter and brighter until eventually the toes of that right foot are going to be very soft on the floor. And then maybe there's no weight at all on that foot. Maybe they're just gently resting there. And notice in that space, when the foot is still on the ground but it's light, how you have less weight on your left hand. And this is an amazing moment. So you can hang out right here. Or if you feel like you want to practice with the foot lifted, you can see what it would feel like to lift that right foot. If you want to see what it would feel like to reach through the left hand, that's fine too. If you're in a chair, a great way to practice this is to sit tall and just march your feet. So scoot forward in the chair, sit tall, and just float that right foot up off the ground. And whatever is happening, you want to feel your belly engaging, like your belly button is lifting towards your spine, supporting your back. And then gently release down, and we'll take the other side. So if you're on the mat, the toes tuck, and you're going to slide the left leg back. And again, find your little flashlight shining out through your heel. And I think less and less weight on that left foot, but everything else is going to stay steady. If you're sitting, just keep the feet on the ground to start, but just think less weight on that left foot. And then maybe the foot wants to float. Notice how you have less weight on that right hand. Maybe the right hand wants to float. Maybe it doesn't. It doesn't really matter. Again, the outside of the pose doesn't matter. It's about the inside. And then exhale, release everything down and come back to your version of child's pose. Whatever version of this pose is most comforting for you. Feel that rhythmic quality of your breath. Feel your breath slowing down. As if you could breathe all the way down into your hips, or particularly if you feel any aches or pains in your back. Maybe you're in child's pose, you want to really direct the breath into those areas. So rather than stiffening and kind of pulling away from the pain, we want to actually move into it with our breath, as if our breath could massage those aches and pains out of the body. Slowing down the exhales, find that soothing quality to the exhales. If you're staying in a chair, I recommend just practicing that marching with the legs. Otherwise, if you're on the mat, you're going to inhale and come on up, and we're going to do some rocking motion here. But rather than it being the rocking that we did in cat-cow, where the back is moving in those kind of flexed and extended positions, we're going to hold our back steady. So again, we're going to think about our core. So the back stays steady. As you exhale, you're just going to shift your hips back. It might feel like a little hint of cow, like a little lift of the tailbone to keep the back from not rounding. And then you're going to inhale, come forward. So you exhale, shift back, keep the back neutral, inhale to come forward. Maybe as you shift back, you want to engage the Mula Bandha or the root lock, the pelvic floor, lifting and engaging. That'll be deeper core strength. And inhale, come forward. Another way to do this in the chair is to just come back to those pelvic tilts. It's okay if the back is moving in those ones. Maybe you shift back so much that you can get a little lift going through your knees. Maybe it's just a thought. Maybe they do lift. It doesn't really matter. And then maybe this rocking motion takes the knees even a little higher the next time. And maybe it takes you all the way up into a downward facing dog. In down dog, knees can stay bent. There is no pressure to straighten the legs. If your hamstrings are tight, your knees are going to have to be bent. That's okay. Keep them bent so that you can keep your back long. If you're in the chair, feel free to stand up and take your feet hip distance apart. Find that flat back, and you can lean forward. You can use the back edge of the chair or the seat of the chair. Bend your knees and pull back through your hips, just like we could give traction to our spine, lengthening our spine. And then either exhale, come back to seated, or the mat, and come back to child's pose. Let it all go. On an inhale, gently rising back up either to tall seated or hands and knees. And if you're seated in the chair, you can just stay in that position. If you're on your mat, take your hands just slightly forward of your shoulders. And we're going to kind of roll our elbows in so that that front crease of the elbow faces forward, so that as we gently bring our body forward, the elbows stay tucked at our sides as we lower all the way to our bellies. So from your belly, from here, you want your hands to come right under your shoulders. Fingers are spread. Lengthen through your toes. Feel like your toes could reach back a little further behind you. Again, think now we've got little flashlights coming out of our toes, but without lifting the feet. So the feet stay on the mat. They reach back. Feel how that starts to wake up the backs of your legs. Maybe you can feel your glutes starting to engage, giving support to your back. And then from here, we're just going to pull with the hands. Like the hands could pull back towards your hips. And then notice maybe you can turn your head and actually see if your shoulders are pointing down towards the ground. See what it would be like to lift them a little bit away from the floor. So we pull them away from our ears, but we also lift them away from the floor. And as the shoulders get that deep kind of pull and lift, maybe the heart comes along with it. Small movement though, cobra pose. From here, if you are in the chair, I'm going to show you really quick how to take cobra in the chair. So cobra in the chair, you're going to sit tall, you bring your hands right in front of your shoulders, and you're going to get that same feeling of kind of looping the shoulders away from the ears and away from your heart, so that we're opening the front body. You can spread your fingers and just feel that really lovely heart opening quality. So you can rest there, you can take the pose from here and seated. Make sure you're breathing. This is a notorious pose for people holding their breath, holding on for dear life. Relax the jaw. Find your breath. Again, this cobra is a snake, so we want to feel maybe just even a little of that rocking motion, a little side to side fluid movement, not rigid. And then on an exhale, let it all go. Maybe you want to make a little pillow with your hands and just rest your forehead straight down into your hands. You can rock the hips side to side if that feels good. And then as you're ready, we'll take one more round. Take the hands under the shoulders. Draw the shoulders away from the ears, nice and long through the body. Tuck the elbows in at your sides. Inhale, just a tiny bit of lift of the heart. But again, it's not about pushing up. It's about pulling. Imagine that you could take your vertebrae of your spine and just lengthen one away from the next. So that cobra is this really long, open spinal pose. And this time, as you exhale, just gently lower down. You're going to tuck the elbows in at your sides and get that feeling still of shoulders pulling away from the ears to lift. There's two ways to come up. Well, two ways that I'm going to show you. There's lots of ways to come up, but I'm going to show you two. First way to come up, which is the most supportive, is to take the elbows first under you and then lift through the hips and then come up onto the hands. Another option would be to try and lift the hips and the heart in one piece. Either way, you're going to gently lift back to hands and knees, and then we're all going to find our way back to child's pose. Just move slowly through the body. After those back bends, here's where we get to kind of really come into some sensation, but it's normal for things to feel a little stiff or a little tight or a little tender into the back. So if you feel those sensations of like, ooh, that feels like something's happening there, maybe it doesn't have to be pain, you know? If you really draw your breath into it, feel that movement of your body, feel where there's tenderness, think of breathing into those areas. Again, offer up support, offer up compassion to your body. Use your breath like you could just massage that sensation, soothe it out. And from here now we're going to come up to stand. So either you can find your own comfortable way of coming to standing, or if you want to move through downward facing dog, you can reach your hands forward, tuck the toes under, and again, kind of lift as you reach your hips back, knees can stay bent. We're going to just take a little friendly moment in down dog before we walk our hands back towards our feet. Knees are going to stay bent, and you're going to let your body hang forward. Just a moment in this little ragdoll forward fold. Maybe you want to come back to that rocking motion, rocking side to side. If your back does not like this though, bend your knees and come on out. Bending nice and deep for all of us. You're going to push through the legs and gently roll up through the spine. And exhale as the hands come back to the heart. From here, we're going to build into mountain pose, Tadasana. This is a really foundational pose. So to take Tadasana today, go ahead and bring your feet so that they're about hip distance apart. So comfortable, slight distance apart. Make sure though, notice, look down, and make sure that the feet are facing straight forward. So I'm pretending like my hands are feet here so you can see. Straight forward, not kind of turned out to the sides. But if when you bring your feet straight forward, your body is just like, oh, no, not happy. And the feet want to turn out a little bit. Feel free to allow that to happen. But we first try it straight forward, see how they feel. If they're not happy, then let them turn out a little bit. Try if you can and let them turn out about the same amount so that we're not really setting the body off, biasing it to one side. So from here, if you want, you can let your arms just comfortably rest at your sides, or I like to take my hands to my heart. But we're going to just feel some rocking motion again in the body, swaying forward and back. So letting the weight come forward onto the balls of the feet, and exhale as it rocks back to the heels, or vice versa. Just breathe and move. So let one half of the breath take you forward, one half of the breath take you back. And as you feel this rocking motion, just noticing if your chronic pain is asymmetrical, like it's on one side of the body, notice if that foot is more reticent to take some of the weight on it. That's again that sort of hot stove metaphor of our body pulling away from the pain. But what that does is if we pull away from one side of the body, that side gets tight and weak, and then it's more prone to pain. So we need to reintegrate. We need to ground through that side. And then instead of forward and back, we're going to do the same idea, but side to side. So again, I'm showing with my hands that the feet are just going to rock. So you feel the weight kind of rocking to the inner edge of one foot, outer edge of the other, left to right as you rock side to side. And again, notice, is your body really reticent to take weight on the side that there's pain? And see what you can do to, again, offer it up to your body as saying, hey, like, what would happen if we had a little more support coming from the ground? And then from here, we're going to try and find equilibrium. So now all these side to side, front to back motions, they're going to calm, and we're going to imagine as if our foot, again, this is the foot, as if it were a car, where it would have its tires. So we'd have our two back and our two front tires. We're going to try and find all four tires, all four corners of both feet. From here, make sure that your knees aren't locked, so soften the knees. And then you're going to lift up all 10 toes off the ground. As the toes lift up, you're going to feel that deep lift coming from the arches of your feet. Feel that lift coming from the arches and try and just maintain just a little hint of arch support as you soften your toes back down. When the toes come up, often we rock back onto our heels, so you got to reintegrate. When the arches lift, sometimes we lose that grounding under the big toe, so you got to kind of reground. So it's just a little hint of a lift in the arch. But as we get that hint of a lift in the arch, we're going to engage some deep core myofascial structures, so some deep muscles and connective tissue structures that run up through the soles of the feet, up through the thighs, the groin, pelvic floor, into the belly, kind of all the way up to the root of the tongue. We're going to build that support for the body. But at that same time, we're not focusing on becoming so strong that we forget to breathe. So maybe even you can do the check back in with the heart, with the belly. Make sure that you're still getting some belly breathing. And then from here, we're just going to take some gentle arm circles in as big or as small a range as your body wants to go. So you're going to inhale, circle the arms up, and exhale, bring them back down. Twice more. Inhale, and exhale. Last time, breathing in, and breathing out. Now, same idea, but reverse direction. Inhale, straight up. Exhale, circle it back. Inhale, reach it up. Exhale, circle. Last one. Inhale, and exhale. And then from here, we're going to step out into a warrior one pose. So for warrior one, you're going to turn and step your right foot forward and your left foot back. It doesn't need to be a huge, big step, just a comfortable step back. And then you're going to bend your front knee until you can just see the big toe to the inside of the knee. And then from there, go ahead, take the hands to the heart. Grounding through the feet, we're going to still think about those four corners of your feet. And your back foot, I know you can't really see mine from this camera angle, but the back foot is faced mostly forward so that we're not turning it out to the side and kind of cranking on the hips and the back. We're trying to keep our hips aligned with our pinky toes. So that front hip kind of goes straight forward and the back hip goes just a little bit out to the side, following the pinky toe. And then from here, let's get some nice release for the front of the body because we could all use a little of that. So you're going to interlace the hands behind the back. And then just gently roll the shoulders open across the chest. If this is too intense, hands to the hips is great. Just gently reach your elbows towards each other. Or make up your own way of doing it. We're just going to take some variation of something that's going to open through the front of our body. We're going to feel our breath moving into our lower ribs, into our belly. We're going to feel some of that tension from the front of the chest just melt away. Slowing the breath down, and then gently release, feel the weight shift forward, and we'll take the other side. So now the left foot is forward, the right foot steps back. And again, you can check in with the feet. You want that back foot mostly forward. Front knee is going to bend until you can say hi to your big toe. And the hips just kind of follow along whatever angle the toes are pointing you. And then from there, take whatever heart opener inspires you today. So opening through the front of the body, whether it's your own version or hands on the hips or interlacing. Soften the face, the throat. Feeling that sense of both grounding to the earth, connecting to the earth, rooting down. If there's some kind of spiritual meaning to you around grounding or around that connection to the earth, maybe you can kind of breathe into that sensation. And then exhale, release the arms, shift the weight forward, and step it back. And now we'll take warrior two. So we're going to step the left foot back, and now the feet are going to line up heel to arch. Sometimes we talk about warrior two like a hallway pose, like you could do it down a hallway. So you're going to bend through the front knee, find the little big toe to the inside of the knee, and then reach through the arms. And again, how wide apart you have the legs doesn't matter. If you're comfortable in a wide stance, then go for it. If you feel much safer in a shorter stance, shorten it up. Just find what works for your body. And feel your shoulder blades soften away from your ears, and imagine like your arms are just floating on the surface of water. So we're trying to take that sense of gripping the body, trying to take that out of these standing poses. Still feel the strength coming from the arches of the feet, feel the strength coming from the legs, the thighs, the pelvic floor, but trying to find some fluidity, some release of that tension through the fingers. You can wiggle the fingers, you can do little think of it like what's that? I don't know what it was called, the breakdancing move. I'm not a breakdancer, but the wave, like that kind of movement in the arms. And then just gently release. I'm embarrassing myself, and we'll take the other side, or aging myself with those 80s breakdancing moves. From there, heel to arch alignment, hallway, bend through the front knee, ground through the toes, but then soften through the arms. Warrior two. Putting our energy and our strength of the pose into that rooting through the feet, that strength in the legs, and then let the breath flow. Let the pose also have that element of relaxation. One of the awesome things that yoga can do for our bodies is it can bring us into this state of alert awareness and calmness at the same time. That we can have a little bit of that kind of energy working and pulsing through the body, but without it being a full-blown stress response. It can be a calm energy. And again, if you want to add in some moves of your own, whatever they are, wiggles or movements, sways, again, you can come back to that sort of rhythmic movement. And then exhale, step it forward again. And coming back to mountain pose, rooting back through your feet. Take a moment to close your eyes to just really enter into that sensory experience of what your body is feeling right here, right now. Feel the breath moving, slowing it down. And then opening your eyes, and we're going to make our way back to seated. And if there's a comfortable way of doing that for your body, to sit back in the chair or the floor, you can move as you would. Or if you want to follow along with me through a forward fold, you can inhale, reach up through the arms, and then you're going to sit back through your hips like you were going to sit into a chair. Let your knees bend and just let your body pour forward. Let it hang. And then from the forward fold, making your way back down to the earth or onto a chair. And again, if you are sitting on the floor, I highly recommend getting some support. Again, you can take some blankets and fold them. If you've got a fancy yoga bolster, you can sit on that. You can stack couch cushions, books, whatever it takes, so that you can sit in a comfortable cross-legged position in a way where your knees are ideally close to the level of your hips. If the knees are way higher than the hips, that's just a lot of strain on our back. So our back has to work really hard to support itself. But if you can get yourself in a position where the knees are at the level or even lower than the hips, your back is going to thank you. It's going to feel way better. So we want to offer up that support for the body. Or you can just sit in a chair. That works too. And we're going to take a twist from here. And we have not done a lot of twisting, so nothing is going to be forced in this twist. It's going to be a really gentle, open twist. So go ahead and just take a nice breath in to feel the breath fill your belly. And then as you exhale, you're just going to turn to the right. And when you feel that first point of resistance, you're just going to hang out there. Let the arms be loose so that we're not pulling the body with the arms to force the twist, but really just feeling that twist living inside of us. Noticing where that first point of resistance is, and then breathing into that area. Feeling how the power to twist comes from deep inside the body. You can maybe use that sense of power as a metaphor for taking power back in your life, any way that means to you. And then exhale, just gently unwind, and we'll switch the cross of the legs. Again, lifting tall, breathing in, take up space, and then as you exhale, gently twist to the left. Let the arms just be loosey-goosey. Feel your breath. As you twist, imagine like you could just lift one vertebrae just a little bit away from the next, just growing a little taller. Notice if you're trying to get height through your chin, and try and soften the chin. Get height through the back of the neck. Particularly if your neck is part of your chronic pain story. Giving a little bit of space to that suboccipital region where the skull and spine come together can be really delightful. And then exhale, gently unwind. And then from here, we're going to come all the way back down onto our backs. And again, you can do this in bed. You can do it just leaning back in a chair. It's really nice if you can get onto the floor, onto a bed, to end the practice on your back. It can be a really lovely, just energetic way of calming the body down. But again, let your body be your teacher. What position you're in is up to you. But if you're comfortable on your back, go ahead and come onto your back. And we're just going to hug our knees into our chest. And if you are in a chair, just do a seated child's pose again. Let your body round forward, however it's comfortable. As we come onto our back, we're going to come back to that rocking motion. Just gentle and slow at whatever pace your body wants. Just gently hug and rock side to side. And you can stay with this rocking. If this is feeling calming, if this is feeling nice to you, just stay with it. Otherwise, if you want one more twist, we're going to let our arms open up out from our shoulders. If you can, palms facing up is a nice way to get some of that tension out of the front of the body. And then we're just going to take the hips and we're going to scoot them over to the right. Just boop, one little scoot. So the hips scoot over to the right, and then your knees are very slowly and gently going to roll to the left. And then from here, this is very personal how you want your body to line up. Some people like to try and stack the legs. Some people like to stagger them. And some people like the knees a little bit more open. Some people like them higher. So blah, blah, blah. You can play around with what works for you. But I recommend keeping the right shoulder connected to the floor. I don't care what the knees are doing. The knees can be pointing straight up to the sky. But it's nice to have that right shoulder connected to the floor so that it knows that it has the support in order to fully relax. And you can turn your head right, left, or anywhere in between. Slowing the breath down. Maybe even closing your eyes, going deep into that mind-body space. We'll inhale just slowly with support from the belly. Bring the legs back up. Scoot the hips back to midline. And then a little scoot over to the left as you take the knees to the right, taking the twist on the other side. Now it might feel different on this side than it did on the last one, so you honor that difference. Maybe it doesn't look exactly the same on the outside, and that's fine. No one's body is completely symmetrical. We aren't designed to be symmetrical. Our organs and our belly, they're different from one side to the other. Our brain from right to left is different. So we honor that asymmetry, going off of the sensation of the body, not the external form. Slow the breath down. If you can notice in this twist, maybe where your body is holding tension, where it's holding back, maybe you again want to use your breath like a massage. Slow it down. When you're ready, you can inhale, bring the legs back up. Scoot your hips back to midline. And then from here, one last little hug of the knees into our chest before we rest in Shavasana. It's like yoga dessert. So if you do have a chair handy in Shavasana, I would recommend a really nice way to end this practice would be to do a legs up the chair pose, where you lie on your back and you bring your legs up onto the chair or a couch or a bed or whatever you've got. But you can also find your own version. So you can just lean back in your chair. You can add pillows under your head, your neck, your legs. This legs up the chair is really nice because if we get our legs elevated higher than our heart, it creates this automatic rest and digest, automatic relaxation response in the body. It's kind of like cheating to get rid of stress in our body when we elevate the legs, except it's not cheating because it's okay. But it's just highly, highly effective. So slowing the breath down, eyes are closed. And I'm not going to talk a lot in Shavasana because I want this time to be about your own internal experience. So taking a few minutes here in silence to just sit with those body sensations. To honor your own experience, whatever it is. And if you want to stay here for even longer, feel free. But as you're ready, you can slowly bring movement into the body however it wants to happen, whether that's wiggling fingers and toes, circling ankles and wrists, adding in little organic stretches. I often think of this as like what a cat does when it wakes up from a nap. Maybe knees come to your chest. If you've been in legs up the chair, you want to be very mindful of not sitting up too quickly. So go ahead and roll to one side and rest on your side for at least 3 breaths. Maybe even longer. As you're ready, you can slowly make your way back up to seated. And thank you so much for practicing with me today. This is a practice that is near and dear to my heart. If I could give one practice to the world, it would be this one, to help people who suffer from chronic pain suffer a little less. So thank you for your trust and for joining with me today on this journey. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or would like to know more about my practice and the work that I do. But thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Namaste.